Hello everyone and welcome to 15 Minutes Sylius episode 4. It's a pleasure to meet with you again in this format. Recently we touched a lot of amazing and really fascinating stuff like state machines in Sylius, and we'll be continuing a little bit with this topic in this episode. And I know that the previous episode was technically not 15 minutes, a little bit more like double of that, but I really hope that this one will be shorter. Or not, we'll see. Okay, so as I said in the last episode, we touched the state machine concept, amazing functionality that allows us to model the business processes. For now, we have the custom state machine for the brand module that we introduced in the episode 2. And we will be continuing with that, so we will add some more automatizations, or rather some functionalities that are going around the state machine concept and are somehow reacting on the changes that we do. Right now, it is really simple what we do. We have a grid of brands and we have some types, and we can move between these types from premium to supreme, or the grade to regular, and again to premium, all of this awesome stuff. But I think that we can agree that right now this implementation is not very useful. Like, it looks cool, but it does not do anything valuable. Let's think about what we can do with this concept. We have this state machine that you maybe remember. We created it here. So in the workflow YML, we have the workflow state machine app brand and some places, so states, regular, premium and supreme, and we can move around them. So the usual thing that we would like to do when you implement the state machine in your application is that it models the business process, and this business process is not only transitioning from one state to another, it's also reacting to these transitions. So we can imagine the situation that you have this brand and you would like to maybe inform the contacts for these brands that they have just been marked as premium or supreme, or they have just been degraded into the lower level for some reason. Usually you would like to inform them by email or text message or pigeon with a letter. Does not matter what medium of the notification you choose. What matters is how it aligns with the business processes in your application. So we will start with that. We will react somehow on this transition that we have here and try to notify the brand's contacts via email to make it simple, as we always do in this series at the beginning. So they will be notified that their brand has just been made premium or supreme or whatever. One important thing, maybe you already noticed it, that in the repository that is obviously linked below in the description, we hold all this code that we are doing during the recordings, but from time to time I'll also do some additional thing to show you what are the other ways to implement some ideas that we are doing, or to extend some ideas, or to extend some functionalities that we do there. What I did recently between the episode 3 and 4, I created also a new configuration with the Winzou state machine, so this old, more legacy or traditional way of defining the state machines in Sylius. As you can see, it's a little bit maybe easier to read. So I would say that Winzou state machine is more understandable at the first sight, but definitely it's also less powerful than Symfony Workflow. It's up to you what you use. When we will be doing any customizations based on the state machine, I will also include the implementation for the Winzou state machine in the repository to allow you to see what are the differences and which way do you prefer. But on the recordings, we will be using still the Symfony Workflow. How we do with Symfony Workflow, we are using the standard, one of the standard functionalities from Symfony, event listeners. So we can create listeners that will be listening for the specific events, and these events have some kind of pattern. I will jump into the documentation. So we can listen to different events like workflow.something. So for example, workflow.completed, which means that any state, any transition rather, has been completed. We can also listen to events like workflow.workflowname.completed. So some transition has been completed for this specific workflow. So in our case, it will be a brand, but we can also listen to specific transitions, workflow name completed transition name. And this is what we will be doing in this recording. So we will listen to completion of the transitions, for example, the Mark Premium, and react to somehow to that. We will react with sending the email. Maybe you already noticed that there is one really weak point in my plan. So we don't have any email that we can send any information to. So at the very beginning, just to warm up a little bit, let's add a new property into our brand entity. It will be an email property. So we'll be able to set it up and notify the emails that are attached to the specific brand. Okay, so it seems to work. Like I added the new property to the entity, I added the new field on the grid, and added a new field in our custom form type. So let's try to set it up. Let's add one email here and one email here. Awesome. Right now we have the emails that we can notify. So let's focus on reacting on the transitions. As I mentioned, like we will be using the event listener. So let's create a new listener directory. And in this listener directory, I will create something like brand transition listener. Okay, so it's up to you how you will do that. You can either create one listener for multiple transitions, one listener per transition. Just follow the clean code standards, like think about the separation of concepts, think about the separation of responsibilities, because this is really important to just keep the good practices to make the code as readable as possible. So what we can do, we can create a new function called something like handle mark supreme or mark premium. Let's start with premium one. And if it will be a listener for the completed event, let's listen to completed event and the variable event. In this completed event, we will have the subject that will be our brand, and from the brand we can get an email and send the email. You could ask how we will send this email. We can use another concept, one of the technical bundles from Sylius called Sylius Mailer Bundle, and this Sylius Mailer Bundle allows you to quite easily define the templates for emails that you can send as a transactional emails in the application. We can take a look in the vendor to check it out how it's done in Sylius. Let's go to Sylius here, Sylius bundle. Obviously, you can also check out the documentation, and we'll link it below. But from time to time, it's just easier to jump into the code and don't bother about the documentation, even though obviously it's really important to have the documentation up to date. So this is like the example that we have Sylius mailer emails and some email code, and the most important thing, the template for this email. So we can create something similar. Let's go to our config packages and create a new one, Sylius mailer YML. And in this one, we can create Sylius mailer emails and create a new event, something like mark premium notification or congratulation, maybe, because we would like to congratulate someone. We can define the subject here, but we can also do it in the template. So it will be something like email mark premium congratulation HTML Twig. Copy this one, create a new one here. And if we take a look at other emails that are defined, let's see, this one we will always have the block subject and block content. So I will just maybe copy that because I'm lazy. It can be surprising, but in block subject we define the subject, and in block content we define the content of the email. So let's do that right now. So this is like the really regular Twig template. You can use some variables here like you do in normal Twig templates. So I expect that I will pass some brand, which probably will be the object of the brand entity. And we can take some name from it or other stuff. We could probably also take the state or type or whatever else we would like to do. But let's focus on this one. So we will send this email. And right now, if we have already defined, we can go back to our listener, and use the sender from the Sylius mailer bundle that's injected here in the constructor. Let's use the private sender interface. Sender from Sylius component mailer, sender interface, and what can we do? As you already mentioned, from the event we can get the subject, and the subject will be our brand, and we know that this is the brand type, and we can call this sender send, and as a first argument we pass the code of the email. So this is our mark premium congratulations. The second one will be the array of recipients, so there could be multiple recipients, but we will just define one brand get email. And the third one is the data, so we know that we'll pass this brand to the template, so let's do it this way. And the last step that we need to do for this specific transition obviously will be defining that this is our as event listener, and we will be listening for the event, as we already know, the workflow app brand, because this is the name of our workflow, and completed, and mark premium, and we will be using the method handle mark premium. If I did everything correct, I don't know yet, maybe let's clear the cache just to be 100% sure that everything is working. If something is not working, usually just clear the cache. Maybe it helps, maybe it doesn't, but it's worth to give it a try. Okay, so right now let's go to the admin panel, refresh it, no errors, so that's a good sign, and try to maybe degrade this one, and right now make it premium. Okay, and how do we know if the email is even is sent or not? So if you are using the Sylius Docker configuration, as we did in the first episode, you should already have the Mailhawk service implemented and configured. So let's take a look at it and refresh, and it does not work. So give me a minute and I will debug it.
1 week later.
Okay, after a quick debugging session with my friend Łukasz, I realized that I'm very stupid. Okay, so first I made some mistake. It should be block body, not block content. So this is the first thing. You would see probably some exception if you send the email with that. But the other thing is that why I'm stupid, because as you remember previously I said to you that there is some additional commit with Winzou state machine usage, and to use Winzou state machine in our application we need to change the configuration in Sylius_resource.yml. In Sylius user settings state machine component, I had the Winzou here, and it should be Symfony. So right now everything should be working. Let's check it out. And right now, if I make it premium, I should receive the notification, and I should also receive the email. Congratulations, the brand test has been made premium. All of the stuff that we implemented. Awesome, it works. As you can expect, we should probably have the same automatizations, or the same listeners rather, created for all the other transitions, so also for mark supreme and mark and the grade. And obviously they will need a new email with different codes created here, and they would need a new listener, either new listeners or the new methods defined in the same listener. It's up to you. So also, as previously, let's treat it as a little bit of the homework for you. Obviously, it will be posted in the repository with all the code, but let's don't bother about it right now, because it's like the same thing, but for the different transitions. So the name of the event here will be just different. Okay, and maybe the last thing that it would be useful to do here, to dive a little bit deeper into the grid bundle, because we have this grid and it's awesome and it's working, but usually when you have some kind of the data that you would like to present in a little bit more sophisticated way, or you have more data that you would like to combine with each other, you would not use just the straight string fields that we have in our brand grid, as we have here. You will usually use the Twig field, so the field that is taking some data from you, but also using the custom Twig template. And maybe you noticed that, for example, for the product reviews that we already know from the previous episodes, we have the status and it has some kind of the badges from Bootstrap that just looks cool and less boring than the regular string. So just to give it a try and to show you how you can define your own custom fields in the grid bundle, let's create a let's change the configuration for the type column to the Twig field and create a new Twig template and present it in some a little bit nicer, a little bit more sophisticated way. What we did, I created a new template called admin grid field type HTML Twig, and to make it a little bit more sophisticated, I created a states map. So this is like the custom Twig variable where, based on the type, I defined what kind of color I should pass here. These are just some badges from Bootstrap, so you don't have to, I don't know, style it or whatever. Just use the things that we are using in the admin bundle by default. And based on the data that is passed there, and the data is obviously the type, we are picking the specific class, and based on this, we have beautiful badges with different colors, which is obviously something that is really important for the application. It's not very important for the application, but it's just nicer thing to look at than to the regular strings. Obviously, there is a lot of more things that you can do with Symfony Workflow or generally the state machine concept. You can have some specific transitions called guards that would protect the entity from being moved from one type or one state to another. They can be used to, for example, does not allow making premium the brand that has not received the specific amount of reviews or something like this. Probably we'll explore these topics in the next episode, because the whole state machine concept, as I already told you in the previous episode, is like the fundamental backbone of the modeling business processes in Sylius. So a lot of the customizations that we'll be doing with Sylius Ecommerce functionalities will be basing on the transitions, basing on the things that are happening in state machines in Sylius, but obviously not all of them. But to sum it up, what we did in the last few episodes, we touched almost every technical fundamental from Sylius, things that are not strictly related to e-commerce, because we can agree that things like generic CRUD creations with Sylius resource and grid bundle, the sending emails as we did in this episode, and creating these state machines, these are not the things that are strictly related to e-commerce, and that's one of the reasons why they are not part of Sylius itself, but they are separated bundles right now collected together into something that is called Sylius Stack. And in the next episodes, we will be using these technical fundamentals, these solutions, this mechanism, these algorithms, wybierz sobie, które najładniej zabrzmiało, pewnie solutions albo cokolwiek innego. We'll be using them to make some customization in the Sylius e-commerce business processes, like checkout, like relate them with the products, or do some things with the customers, with reviews, maybe do some new calculations for shipments, for payments. There's a billions of amazing stuff that you can do with Sylius that are strictly related to e-commerce, and we'll be focusing on them obviously in the next episodes. That's all from me right now. Obviously, as usual, if you have any question and if you need any help, feel free to leave the comment, to subscribe, to push the bell, and to just contact with us, because we would love to help everyone that would like to start the adventure with Sylius and need some help, also with some generally Symfony related e-commerce stuff, all of the things that you can imagine that can be complicated or hard on the beginning or in the medium or in the end of your journey with Sylius, Symfony and PHP Word. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure as usually. I'm Mateusz, I'm from Commerce Weavers, and see you in the next episode. Cheers!